You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYBC.
WCYTV
Here on the Daily Signal.
Hey, welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. There is a lot that we do need to update you on from over the weekend regarding, of course, the horrible shooting in Southport, Carolina, as well as the other terrible arson and shooting that took place in Grand Blanc, Michigan. We'll give those their own specific time because there's a lot of updates and a lot of speculation that is spinning up very, very, very quickly. First and foremost, there is a weird pseudo press conference that just finished in front of the White House. So as you might recall, there is some kind of, a bit of a drama over a government shutdown. Now, you may say, wait a minute, Tony, haven't we had like 15 threats of government shutdowns and 14 different budget battles over the last couple of years? Yes, we have. We've done this a lot. And right now, what the Republicans are proposing, because it is the end of the fiscal year for government entities, we have a situation where the House has put forward a very clean continuing resolution. What does that mean? It simply means what things are funded at right now, we'd like to continue doing it. That's it. No extra special stuff, no special funding allocated here, there, and everywhere, no buying Tony a brand new jet from Lockheed Martin. This is what we've got. And I must say that the Democrats deciding right here and now to go for advocating for health care for millions of illegals in the United States is a wild move to make because the House has already passed it. There are already Democrats that are defecting to the Republicans in this particular instance over on the side of the Senate. That didn't stop Chuck Schumer, who is currently facing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, perhaps breathing down his neck in a Senate primary. So Chuckles stumbles out to the microphone. This is very strange. And the man looks out of breath. I'm not saying this is kind of an age thing. He looks a little scared here. Here's Chuckles.
President, for the first time since all of these issues started, even though we have requested repeated meetings with Leader Thune, Speaker Johnson, and the President, we have very large differences on health care and on their ability to undo whatever budget we agree to through rescissions and through impoundment.
He's struggling. This reminds me of the Saturday Night Live sketch, the Chris Farley, the van down by the river. He comes in, he's like, now listen here, you want to, and he's like talking to the kids and he's like adjusting his blazer and he's doing these weird motivational hand gestures. And that's clearly what Schumer's doing here. It's very strange to see when there's no laugh track. Do you have something, producer Nick?
Chris Farley had a few more pounds and surprisingly a little bit less drugs in his system than Chuck Schumer.
Schumer's really going for the gold here, but there's really not any gold to go for. Here, check it out.
As well as pocket rescissions. And I think for the first time, the president heard our objections and heard why we needed a bipartisan bill.
Now, that's a wild claim to make. The Democrats have been advocating for a series of proposals that are written out for you, me, and Dupree to read at our very good, gracious leisure, not by buying a subscription to the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, but by going to any congressional website right now that is on the left side of the aisle and reading what their proposals are. The proposals are they want a bunch of funding into things like healthcare expansion for policies that are easily accessed by illegal immigrants. And the Trump administration says no. And by the way, the pocket rescission complaint by Chuck Schumer here saying, well, they're doing all of these pocket rescissions that are unethical. The Supreme Court of the United States just ruled that, yeah, it's fine for Trump to do pocket rescissions in this manner. Because if Congress is going to give up a huge portion of its authority to the executive agencies, the three-letter alphabet agencies ranging from the FBI to the DOE, whether for you that's Department of Energy or Department of Education, and then they're going to choose how to spend a lot of the funding allotted by Congress. Now Congress is mad about it if you're Chuck Schumer and you're out of power. Hakeem Jeffries took the just bold-faced lie approach of saying, well, it's actually not happening and the stuff that we're advocating for isn't about the exact stuff that we're advocating for. Here's Hakeem William Shatner Jeffries.
Federal law prohibits the expenditure of taxpayer dollars on providing health care to undocumented immigrants.
to illegals. Yes, it in fact does. Federal law does in fact prohibit that. That's correct.
Nowhere have Democrats suggested that we're interested in changing federal law.
That's not the same thing. Saying, well, we haven't advocated changing federal law. Again, if you have a bucket of money and you say anyone who is here around, you can take this money and use it on these programs, well, yeah, that turns out illegal immigrants do, in fact, start using that money. Now, this is the best part. So A.G. Hamilton made this. He's like me, likes to keep a lot of local and regional receipts. The Chicago Tribune had been reporting that the programs for healthcare in the states now cost way more than officials had projected at a time when states are facing multi-billion-dollar deficits now and in the future. In Illinois, says the Chicago Tribune back on July 19th, adult immigrants aged 42 to 64 without legal status, immigrants without legal status, survey says illegal immigrant. There we go. They have lost their health care to save an estimated $404 million. Wait a minute. Hakeem just said that illegal immigrants weren't taking dollars here. In Minnesota, no longer have access to the state program, saving nearly $57 million. In California, $3 billion over the next several years. Oh, wait a minute. So you're telling me that states are spending their state money on illegal immigrants so that they can then receive federal money to cover that cost. And then when the federal government says, no, you're going to spend your money on American citizens of your state, even if it's California or Minnesota or Oregon or what have you, then all of a sudden the states have to cut those programs because they have to spend it on citizens first. This is unconscionable to the Democrats. And Mike Johnson from Louisiana, and not to mention the Roundhouse Fundamental Baptist of the House of Representatives, he came back with this response.
Now, there's a reason that Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have come out here, stomped the feet, saying that they can't go along with this. They're trying to bring in extraneous issues. They issued a counter proposal. You should go take a look at what they requested. $1.5 trillion in new spending that is unrelated to the ongoing appropriations process. They wanted to, as you said, restore taxpayer-funded benefits, okay? Hard-working taxpayers in America. They want to take your funds and give that for benefits to illegal aliens. They want to restore that because we got rid of it. They want to prop up left-leaning media outlets. $500 million they threw in on top of that. $1.5 trillion on a 7-week stopgap funding measure. We're not going to do that.
Now, he makes the clear point. Well, they say, well, what if we just come back to this in 7 to 10 days? And Mike Johnson's like, no. We're going to continue funding the government. You don't get to play this game. Vice President J.D. Vance then followed up. Sorry, this audio is a little bit rougher. We didn't have time to run it through the AI before the show.
We just had a very frank conversation with the Senate and House Democratic leadership. Look, the principle at stake here is very simple. We have disagreements about tax policy, but you don't shut that government down. We have disagreements about health care policy, but you don't shut the government down. You don't use your policy disagreements as leverage to not pay our troops, to not have essential services of government actually function. You don't say the fact that you disagree about a particular tax provision is an excuse for shutting down the people's government and all the essential services that come along with it. If you look at what Chuck Schumer has said in the past consistently, it's whatever our disagreements are, let's negotiate with them. Let's talk about them. Let's figure out a bipartisan solution, but you don't shut the government down. In other words, you don't put a gun to the American people's head and say, unless you do exactly what Senate and House Democrats want you to do, we're going to shut down your government. That's exactly what they're proposing out there.
And he's correct, because what the Democrats are proposing is not a compromise. There's nothing they've said, well, okay, what about this instead? What if you give us a little bit of leeway here? What if you just fund a couple of universities? They say, what if you violate federal law or provide states the opportunity to violate federal law? And if you don't do it, then we're not going to compromise and say, okay, well, maybe not that, but will you consider this proposal in a future bill? Something like that. There are Republicans that are interested in the wheeling, dealing parts of politics. Now, I mean, I think that those things are really disturbing, and that's one of the reasons why we're, meeting, for example, with some of the Blaze crew to discuss Representative Corey Mills here in a couple of weeks. But on the whole, on the face of it, Democrats thinking that they have the magic bullet here by saying, oh, well, we've got the government shutdown. That's going to make Americans really mad at Republicans. No. Radio crew, we got to send you over to commercial land. We're going to continue here on the live stream. Take care, radio crew. See you in a second. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. Now, here on the live stream, I'm not joking when I say they really think this is the ultimate winning issue of all time. James Singer, who used to be with the Kamala Harris group and also the kind of Democrat Governors Association guy, also part of the very successful Terry McAuliffe campaign. You know, the Virginian gubernatorial candidate who said parents should stay out of education affairs for their children. Well, James Singer says, based on a Politico Playbook article, by a 13-point margin, voters would blame the GOP, who control the House, the Senate, and the presidency, for a government shutdown. It's even worse for independent voters, down 17 points. He tries the same thing with quoting a kind of a Navigator research poll, which I just don't believe him here. He doesn't believe him here. No one believes him here. And there's a good reason why. Because the argument, well, the Republicans control everything, so why is this even an issue? Honey, if the Republicans control everything, then why are Democrats able to shove the metal pipe in the gear here? I'm sorry, there was not a supermajority in the Senate. If Republicans had 60% of the vote here, then yeah, it would be fine. They could shove whatever it is that they wanted through, and hopefully nationwide constitutional carry would be one of those first things, especially given the light of the shootings over the weekend. However, and I want to make this crystal clear, the idea that Democrats think this is a winning issue for Americans, long-term polling doesn't show that. It is the minority party which is threatening the actual shutdown. And it just so happens, according to Adam Wren over at Politico, Democrats in Congress are planning a major wine tour excursion. A wine tour excursion kind of a situation. Incredible. I personally remember when there was that little ice storm and Ted Cruz went on a very short trip to Cancun with his family that was already booked like a month in advance. They called him evil and terrible and awful and stinky and all this other stuff. Yet, when the Democrats plan a major ritzy California hotel in wine country that, may or may not be linked to Gavin Newsom directly, well, I can see why people might find their claims that Americans are going to have essential services cut off, but actually, no, they're not. But also, we're going to go off and drink wine. Yeah, I don't think that's going to resonate. Producer Nick?
They love wine and they love whining.
Well, we're going to talk about some of that whining because right now, there is a group over in kind of the media ecosphere that is losing their ever-loving mind about the deployment of the National Guard, a whopping 200 guardsmen. So, if you're going by traditional standard averages, that's barely 2 platoons, but we have more officers these days than you can, shake a stick at. So that's, that's kind of up to anyone's guess here. But in this case, 200 National Guardsmen have been signed off on by Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, to head out to Portland, Oregon, for the grand task of protecting federal facilities. And I kid you not, alongside the Democrat strategists who are currently trying to claim, with all of their effort and moxie, that, actually here right now, the shutdown's not going to happen, and if it does happen, no one's going to be hurt, and then if it does happen and it hurts, Republicans are going to fire a bunch of federal workers, which they think that Americans hate, which is really funny. And also, if those workers don't get fired, 100,000 of them are going to resign. That'll show me, I guess. And then also, they're trying to simultaneously claim that, actually, Portland is a really safe and beautiful city. I've seen that all over the weekend. Just that this one guy who I guess is kicking a rock until it becomes round over on Instagram was showing how beautiful Portland is as he walked through this park. And there's a really hard jump cut halfway through the video as something starts to get loud.
Just every so often going straight to the sky. Look how great the skyline is.
Again, the most amazing part about body camera footage and cell phone camera footage right now is that it allows all of the narratives that are presented to be discredited instantly based on available footage. We're going to talk about that here in a second. We have to pick the radio crew back up from commercial. Don't go anywhere. It'll be about 10 seconds. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. It's great to be with you for a number of reasons, but also because right now, I, along with many of our excellent audience, have been following the deployment of the National Guard to Portland, Oregon, a special group of the U.S. Border Patrol to Chicago, and the entirety of the meltdown that has been occurring not by average Americans, not by those who are actually living inside the affected areas of Portland, who have been calling the police, who have been calling for the National Guard to be deployed, not those living in the rougher parts of Chicago, but from rich, suburban, old liberal women who are desperately angry that, oh no, this is that fascism that we've been warned about. It's all over. We're all going to die. Everything's just going to be ultimately terrible forever, ad nauseum, amen. Here is the mayor of Portland, who is, all right, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I really can't tell the mayor of Portland and the governor of Oregon apart. They both look like old, liberal ladies. I'm serious. Here's the governor of Oregon.
Me and the group of elected leaders.
She kind of looks like the, Megan Rapone, the U.S. women's soccer player, aged about, 10, 20 years. The mayor of Portland, Oregon looks the exact same. Don't believe me?
The number of necessary troops.
It's the same person. Look at them. Look at him. Look at her. Look at him.
The number of necessary troops is 0.
Are they wearing each other's
clothes? In any other American city. And let me repeat that.
All right, I do actually want to show the viewers what it is that what he's saying here.
The number of necessary troops is 0 in Portland and any other American city. And let me repeat that. This is an American city. We do not need any intervention.
I do love how quickly they are to say this is an American city whenever Trump considers deploying the National Guard. Now, by the way, I do want to remind those at home that a National Guard from Oregon, the Oregon National Guard, that if that's deployed to Portland, you realize there's pretty even money that some in that platoon have been born and raised in Portland, Oregon. We'll see this in Chicago as well. But whenever you see the National Guard of the state called out to a city, those are locals. It's not some federal intervention in the way that you think it might be. But he's going to say nothing is wrong, everything's fine. Here's the governor that's definitely not the mayor of Portland saying the same stuff.
Me and the group of elected leaders and community leaders behind me, we are in the central city of Portland, Oregon, and it is a beautiful day.
By the way, she says elected representatives behind her. It's all angry, old, white women, and I think that second person's a woman. And then the very sad bald dude who is married to one of them. That's the exact crowd behind. This is every school board in the ritziest part of your state. That's what the school board looks like. You have angry old grizzled person who thinks that stripes are a personality. You have the art teacher that may or may not be going through a transition. You have the blonde lady who looks like probably an MSNBC anchor aged under 2 Tatooine suns. And then you have the lady who gripes about her Starbucks order. And then Megan Rapone in front of all of them.
I'm very happy to be here speaking with you today. In my conversations directly with President Trump and Secretary Noem, I have been abundantly clear with them that...
Abundantly clear? How can you be... I understand abundantly clear is technically a phrase that works, but abundance is a gross term. You can be perfectly clear. Abundantly clear just means you're polishing a window after it's already clear. We have to have it clear in abundance.
Portland and the state of Oregon believe in the rule of law, and we can manage our own local public safety needs.
Well, you can't manage your local public safety needs because the ICE facility, the Immigration Customs Enforcement facility on federal property inside of Portland, Oregon, has been under siege by violent individuals who have, by the way, not just violated actual inciting of violence laws, who have not just done a lot of extra stupid stuff, etc., ad nauseum. They have also been violating Portland's own city ordinances, no fireworks. That's been violated in the city of Portland by these particular individuals, and they have not gotten any less violent. Did you get the clip of the assault edited on the NAS? I just want to make sure that we pull this up because it is very disturbing, but we don't want to make Allison go through bleeping out everything. So again, here are some of the violent attacks happening on the ground in Portland right now.
Officer! Yo!
So as you can see on the screen, those who are listening, I'm sorry, you'll have to catch this on the live stream later, youtube.com/dailysignal. Now, what you may notice here, and before the guy runs in with his weirdly stained dowel rod or cane for a dwarf, you'll notice that there are, first of all, journalists, individuals who are taking the footage. You'll notice the two groups of people who are arguing, and then you'll notice the violence that starts to kick in. Where are the cops? Mayor Definitely Straight over there was telling me how much she thought that they could manage their own city affairs. Yet attacks like this happen in Portland. Do you know how I know this? We have the records. We have the footage.
Okay. Knock it off. Relax.
Where's the bleeping police? Someone said. Excellent question.
Got it. Grab it.
Comes in, immediately starts hitting the individual. Again, here are people. Cops should run in, grab the person committing the assault, and arrest them. Why is that difficult? By the way, even Chicago police get this right. Chicago police, when I was there for the Democratic National Convention in 2024, when the order was finally given, the Chicago police ran in there and handed out a fair amount of whoopings. Like they were on sale, everything must go. Those hands in Chicago were rated E for everyone. The Portland police is shackled by Mayor Super Justice. Disgusting stuff. Again, we have clip after clip of this. Antifa rioters trying to attack an Asian man outside the ICE facility who is trying to protect Katie Davis Court from the post-millennial who is recording this. Because the last thing, again, despite all of the desire for body cameras and CCTV cameras, it's amazing how now it's Antifa that wants no cameras at all recording anything whatsoever. We saw this in California, the individual who came up and tried to basically put up electronic countermeasures to stop footage of a homeless man, or a veteran actually, being beaten. Just the most mentally stable of people. Now, the rest of individuals in Portland, it's a very mixed bag over there in Oregon. Individuals coming out of the woodwork to say, yeah, they're thrilled to actually see law enforcement doing law enforcement things in the city of Portland. Here's one of them.
I'm so happy that Trump is sending the National Guard in here. I live in this building. We both live in this building. We've been asking for help for months, and we're finally going to get it.
When do you think they're coming?
When? Not soon enough, man. Not soon enough.
What do you?
We're going to cut the radio crew over to commercial, continue over here on the live stream with the extra good stuff in Chicago. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. All right, live stream crew. Mayor Brandon Johnson, he's very, very mad because a unit of Border Patrol has also come in with ICE agents. I will say, by the way, I did call this one a month ago. I said that when you started to have individuals in the Antifa and other left-wing organizations that openly attacked ICE facilities, it would give the Trump administration the leverage they needed to deploy either ICE, the National Guard, or U.S. Border Patrol's kind of elite divisions that are now a little bored down on the border because no one's crossing the border, to aid federal agents upholding federal law. Because again, Trump said, all right, I'll back out. We'll go to Shreveport in Louisiana. We're going to go to Memphis in Tennessee. That's what we'll do. And then you had all of these attacks exacerbate, elevate. And so Mayor Brandon Johnson, he's very, very mad. Why is Mayor Brandon Johnson very, very mad? He's mad because U.S. Border Patrol was seen on Michigan Avenue. Oh, no. Look at him. Just walking menacingly. Not Americans in American uniforms. Oh, no. the horrors. I can't believe that Trump would do this. Some of them do in fact have automatic weapons that are drawn in very dangerous areas. Again, they are armed. I kind of don't mind seeing a U.S. federal agent or service member of law enforcement armed. Mayor Brandon Johnson's very upset about this, though.
Have nothing to do with making our city safer. My question to these masked, heavily armed individuals is simple. What could you possibly need an automatic weapon for?
What could an individual facing 30 people who are shouting, shoot ICE, shoot ICE, what could that person possibly need a rifle for? I'm scratching my chin on this one, producer Nick. So he's very mad about that. J.B. Pritzker, fresh out of the Golden Corral, he's also ready to weigh in. No pun intended. Here's J.B. Pritzker, governor of Illinois.
Times. For Donald Trump and the MAGAs in...
I want to point this out because I didn't even see the chyron here on MSNBC. It says, Pritzker, White House says it will send 100 troops to Illinois. 100. That is one platoon. That's it. 100 people. Listen to how Pritzker talks about this.
Congress. This is not about fighting crime or about public safety. This is about sowing fear and intimidation and division among Americans.
100 people sowing fear and division.
It was about creating a pretext to send armed military troops into our communities.
Armed troops into our communities. 100 people in the city of Chicago. Not exactly your local small town, 200-person town.
This is about consolidating power in Donald Trump's hands. What he plans to do with that power, now or during the 2026 elections, should worry all of us. When you add to that...
By the way, I will say the reason that J.B. Pritzker is whining about the 2026 elections, but he's also not running the same praising Prop 50, Gavin Newsom, we're going to gerrymander everything line of thought, is because Illinois can't be gerrymandered anymore without sacrificing, believe it or not, more blue seats. Like, it already looks like a Croatian Eastern European gerrymandered nightmare. Essentially, it looks like any African map after the Dutch left it alone. And so we can't do anything else with it.
The Trump administration's effort to label as dangerous free speech critical of him. White House senior staff calling the Democratic Party fascist. The Trump-appointed FCC chair threatening to revoke broadcast licenses and the approval of a merger in order to silence late-night comedians.
Okay, buddy. We got to bring the radio crew back from commercial. Don't go anywhere. It's Tony Kinnett Cast.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIPC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast. J.B. Pritzker, he's very, very grumpy because he said, well, the Trump administration has, I guess, called certain mayors and governors authoritarian and fascist. He doesn't like that. He doesn't think anyone should be calling anyone fascist unless it's the Trump people. They're fascists. Again, it's really weird because in the light of what occurred over the weekend, there was a narrative very quickly drawn in which a shooter and arsonist went to a Latter-day Saints, a Mormon church in Grand Blanc Township in Michigan, and crashed a pickup truck into the building and poured gasoline as an accelerant around the building. And as people came out because of the fire and the explosion, he then started opening up fire on the individuals coming out of the Latter-day Saints church. And all of the social media analysis and stuff immediately came out, and they started pointing out that, oh, he has some kind of Trump Vance sign on a fence, and underneath it, there's like a stop sign nailed to the fence. And is that a stop Trump and Vance sign, or is he pro-Trump? Is he not? Is this Photoshopped? Is it not? And there were those who maybe they meant well, maybe they did not, who decided to say, oh, see, the violence is on both sides. See, I mean, it's really true that you both sides are calling each other fascist, and it's coming out. This point was made and then rebutted today on Fox on the 5. So two of them with opposing views hashed this out. And I really do think that it's worth you checking this out.
This chart that Axios published about this
rise in left-wing violence, and the right was gleefully tweeting it, ignoring the fact that the right-wing violence was much larger than the left-wing violence, which is the truth about it. And you can go anywhere you want for these statistics. You can go to Cato, you can go to the Government Accountability Office, you can go to the Center for, Strategic and International Studies to see that. And in the wake of the absolutely tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk, the right, led by Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, wants to make it out as if the left are the only ones who have ever used the word fascist. And you can see a compilation of Stephen Miller saying it. It's passing all over Twitter. You have Donald Trump on tape. You have analyses of how many times that he's referred to Democrats and journalists as evil just in the first 6 months of his administration. And, I think that we should have led this conversation with the tragedies of this weekend. We had more mass shootings, which is just the daily occurrence in American life.
So she frames the argument as, see, here you go. It was a Trump guy who did it. We should have started this conversation out. This is how we should have framed it. And Waters chimes in, and I think it's probably one of the better rebuttals to this conversation.
The first thing that he would have said.
Yeah, because the right is going everywhere saying, go after the Mormon people. There's a difference. There's a difference when there's one person, a one-off, and people that are going on a day-to-day basis. It's not a one-off. Go back to the Axios chart, and you can see how much of a not one-off it is.
Okay, so I very much disagree with pointing to the Axios chart, which is weighted based on the Economist ratings. By the way, Axios article has now stated that left-wing terrorism is at a 30-year high. The point that Waters made that I think is very apropos in this situation is that you do not see any Republicans right now, anywhere that I can find, who are running around saying Mormons need to be stopped, they're fascist, they're the Gestapo, they're grooming people, they're awful, they're terrible. You don't see any of that. I have not yet seen, and by the way, I, as an independent fundamental Baptist who has theological disagreements de jour with those of the Church of Latter-day Saints, we were just talking about them yesterday, I believe, that in this instance, by the way, I just don't see anyone on the right calling for that at all. The argument against Mitt Romney is not, oh, he's a Mormon. No, it's that people don't think that he's actually principled on political issues. None of the right has called for actual direct violence against Mitt Romney. But when the left calls individuals fascists and said they need to be stopped any way possible and all of this stuff, then the rhetoric becomes very serious. And I do think that as we learn more about this individual, it is important to pay attention to the markers that do in fact fit trends. Right now, I'm not seeing a lot of really big pro-Trump terror-style attacks. I've looked through the charts provided by Axios. I've looked through the data provided by The Economist. It's just not there. It's not. Again, if we are going to play the statistics game in a very gross fashion, may I add, of saying one side versus the other on the side of right-wing committed terrorism. Again, this wasn't an individual openly politically targeting the left, at least from what we found so far. The best that we have as far as evidence is this case is that some eyewitnesses say he was calling Mormons the Antichrist, but that's not a political definition necessarily in this case. But were it so, you would have a few instances in the last 10 years of right-wing on left targeted political terror. And then you have dozens of cases of left-wing political terror against right-wing targets specifically, with manifestos etching on the shell casings, bombings, yelling "Free Palestine," etc. It is a consistent thing. And so when you have this conversation, when someone starts to come out immediately and say, aha, see, both sides, we found him. There's a guy who's got a Trump Vance sign on his fence. We found him. Therefore, it's all the same. No, I'm sorry. It's not the same. And I'm not sorry either. I'm not seeing the political equivacy here. What individuals really want to play the game of at the moment, it seems, over on the left, is that this is evidence that all white people are really, 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 really bad. It's all the white people. And this comes from none other than former journalist, although he's trying to run around and do a bunch of man-on-the-street style interviews in which he ran around to people in Baltimore and to people in Washington, D.C., and I think people in New York City, I believe. Don Lemon ran around to people and said, hey, do you like the National Guard? Do you like them in your city? And then he would run away from them when they would say, yeah, I kind of like having the National Guard here. It's nice not to, see carjackings every other day. Well, now Don Lemon has stepped on his little soapbox again to get angry about white men. Here you go.
Men who look like you, men who vote like you, and men who sound like you. White men, something is broken. Something is cracked deep inside when so many of you believe the answer to fear, to loss, to change is violence.
I'm sorry, the last couple of riots that burnt down cities were over who? I'm sorry, what color was George Floyd? I'm sorry, what color was the guy that Obama said would Trayvon Martin? Who was that started over? Remind me, when Irina Zarutska, as the left-wing media presented her, was some kind of Germanesque icon, even though she's Ukrainian, for like Lebensschwab. Oh, one of the white women has been killed. Oh, now we need to, be up in arms about it. That's what the Huffington Post and Rolling Stone criticized it as. Where was the burning down of Charlotte? I didn't see it. Did you see that, producer Nick? I didn't see anything like that.
No, I did not.
But here is Don Lemon saying, well, it's clearly a white men problem. We have a meeting every Tuesday and talk about the violent mass shootings or whatever we're going to commit.
Are you listening to me? I hope I'm saying it loud enough for the people in the back.
Oh, he's going to do his little, I hope I'm saying it loud enough for everyone over here and there, producer Nick.
He might be saying it, but it's going to continue to fall on deaf ears until they realize that the response of people complaining that political figures on the right are being murdered is not to go, well, your side's doing it too. And then demonizing the other side. That is giving warranted concern in the open market.
When you claim as an opposition that everyone you disagree with is fascist, in the opposite, you make it, well, then maybe I think that, if this is fascism, then more please. There's that shoe on head clip. Actually, give me the video for that and throw it on the NAS. I want that shoe on head clip. This lefty libertarian-y gal, left-wing kind of neo-lib, who makes the point that if you call everything fascism, then eventually it's going to be like, oh, this fascism, more fascism, please. But that's not really the main point that I want to hit here. Don Lemon making the case that, well, if we look at the line of mass shooters, just see that white men seem to be committing this crime. You don't want to play that game, Don Lemon. You don't want to play that game because by percentage, by the average number of relationships, the most amount of domestic abuse comes from lesbian couples. The most amount of gun violence comes from black men. The most amount of illegal immigrant activity comes from Hispanic people. Which means that wouldn't it make more sense for the government to stop Hispanic people based on suspecting being an illegal immigrant? You can't carry the racial idea thought through. If you're going to go after white men as a cultural, community-based, equal thinking group, then you have to play the game all the way. You don't just get to play rules for me and not for thee, or rules for thee, not for me. I'm exempt from this. It's only white men because I'm really mad at them. Nicole Hannah-Jones tried playing this with the 1619 Project and she failed because not only is it an extremely Tylenol idea, but it is also something that doesn't even bear out playing in its own game. Radio crew, we got to send you to commercial. Be back in a second. Going to continue on the live stream here with Rosie O'Donnell and Stephen King. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. Producer Nick, have you seen Stephen King's brilliant thoughts on the Elon Musk statement that I have said for a long time, that President Trump's current policies are essentially Bill Clinton, but a smidge more fiscally conservative and a little bit more socially conservative because of the people he surrounded himself with. A lot of the 90s labor union kind of middle of the country Rust Belt populism that pushed Bill Clinton into office and, touching interns. That is, at least on the policy level, that is something now that is very reminiscent of the Bill Clinton era. And Elon Musk pointed this out. He said, funny to think that Bill Clinton's policies when he was president were essentially make America great again, MAGA. And this is reflective of, Hillary Clinton getting up in front of the country and talking about deporting illegal immigrants, and at the time, clips that we have from back in the day. Stephen King got up, the man who is famous for writing a bunch of horror novels and also fetishizing the rape of a 10-year-old girl. or at least a preteen. Not that the difference matters. And then also, of course, the fetishizing of the school shooting he wrote under a pen name. But Stephen King, he quoted this and said, "You're kidding, right? So far as I know, Clinton never sent the National Guard troops to southern cities." Guys, Waco happened under the Clinton administration. Those who try to tell you that we're all born 5 minutes ago and that nothing has ever happened, no president has ever sent the National Guard anywhere, no president has ever indicted or requested their attorney general investigate anything, no president has ever done anything. When they try to play those games with you, it is because they don't have a good argument for why you are doing what you are doing, why they are doing what they're doing. They have no actual argument at play, so they go, oh, it's just unprecedented, and clutch their pearls. And you see this out of none other than Rosie O'Donnell, whose own therapist, she admits on the air, thinks that she's deeply troubled. Here you go.
When people say, I changed my mind, we have to say, welcome back to reality. Let's all be Americans together, right? Because what's happening...
By the way, let's all be Americans, says the lady who ran off to Ireland.
It's not only happening to Democrats, it's happening to everyone. And when the Medicaid cuts go in, old people are going to start to die. To die.
Haven't we heard this before? By the way, this is on The Best People with Nicole Wallace. Nicole Wallace, not really one of the best people. If your standard of the best people is Rosie O'Donnell, God bless you.
What he's done yet hasn't even hit us yet. Right. And if he's not stopped now, we have lost our country. And I don't know, Nicole, how it is that some people cannot see it. My therapist said, why are you so upset? And I said to her, why are you not?
Yeah.
I love that. Her therapist is like, why are you freaking out? Are you okay? No one's dying. And Rosie O'Donnell's over there in a straitjacket going, they will. Incredible. By the way, regarding the whole fascism argument that Trump really, going back to that rhetoric side of things, I do very much enjoy State Senator Scott Wiener of California. We're going to have to get to him in just a second, though. And of course, not to mention one of the greatest political points in the whole ICE movement of all time. We got to go back and pick the radio clip from commercial. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast.
You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
There are a couple of loose ends that are really worth tying up before we, launch into this week. One of them, remember last week when the illegal immigrant who was evading federal forces in a chase on gun charges just so happened to also be the superintendent in Des Moines Public Schools? I remember that. Well, now you have a school board member, one of the people that hired the illegal immigrant, they didn't do any background check on, again, with active gun crimes, saying that you need to give her money because it's been a really hard week and she needs to campaign.
Hey everybody, it's Jackie Norris. Some of you know I have been busy dealing with an extremely serious situation in my volunteer role as chair of the Des Moines School Board.
You ran for that election. It's not volunteer. You ran. You took an oath. It is a civil service that you were elected to. Honey, sweetie baby.
As a result, I have not had any time to focus on politics or fundraising, and we have a big fundraising deadline, and it is my first filing, and the deadline is Tuesday.
I didn't do my job, and also I didn't do my job. Now, I know it may shock you that when I made the decision to put something off to the deep beyond, that would come back to bite me, and now I'm not able to do other things. But please bail me out and give me money. Left-wing social causes. I truly adore them. The next loose end from the weekend. Apparently, an anti-ICE protester in Massachusetts, when she was going to go yell at agents who were making an arrest of an illegal alien in Upton, Massachusetts, she stops her car and then gets out to go yell at them. But here's the problem. She didn't put her car in park. And so as a result, her car went into the lake and sunk. I believe we actually do have video, at least of her walking away. She's like, oh no, I got out to yell at people upholding federal law, and then my car's just in the lake.
Look at it, Lucy. Her car got lost.
Womp womp. The best of all, though, is that the Department of Homeland Security, by the way, best administration for political memes in recent history. Like the actual content that isn't cringy, but it's pretty good. The Department of Homeland Security quote tweeted this and said, a classic meme, "You can't park there," which is great. It's great. It's a classic meme. Again, calling back from, I believe, an older British meme from, early teens here.
He just got in there. Dear Alpha. It's alright, mate.
What's the name of this road?
You can't park there, sir.
I know I can't park here.
Which, brings us to
great moments in "You Can't Park There" history.
Allison, was that Hammer and Nigel?
Oh, that was definitely Hammer.
Okay, so I'm gonna fire whoever's responsible for that. There's a segment on Hammer and Nigel, which on WIBC, where the show comes from. The station, the show before mine from 3 to 6, Hammer and Nigel, really great, like spiritual successors to Bob and Tom. And they have a segment whenever something in the media happens that there just happen to be some other moments of. They call them great moments in whatever history. And so we're going to go through a few just for you here on the Tony Kinnett cast.
Great moments in "You Can't Park There" history.
So to Jason Hammer, just for you, we do have a few excellent moments. And Allison, I believe these are censored. But just in case, I'd keep your thumb on the dump button.
What? You can't park your car here, ma'am.
Are you blind?
Ma'am.
Excuse me, mate, you can't park there.
What?
Can't park there, mate.
Can't park there.
You can't park that there, mate.
F*** off.
F***ing hell. Stay it up. Hey, geezer. Mate, you can't park there.
Hello, this is not the time to talk this, okay?
As a reminder, if you or a loved one is going to yell at a federal officer, please put your vehicle in park. So really, really great stuff. A few other loose ends that are worth tying up. Scott Wiener, state senator from California, who also enjoys being tied up. Sorry, not sorry. He's a very weird dude. Who went to a pride parade and dressed up in like the weird leather BDSM suit thing for people who like that weird crap. And he's angry because he, called Republicans a bunch of fascists. And people said, wait a minute, Charlie Kirk was assassinated based on that rhetoric. And Scott Wiener essentially said, well, I'm not going to stop because they deserve it. They're fascists. And people got very angry at that nonsense. So Scott Wiener, he came back today to announce, well, sometimes if it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, it's a fascist.
Trump just put out an actual enemies list of Democratic elected officials who haven't been nice enough to ICE. And yet if you call Trump and his cronies fascists, you're somehow inciting violence. You know what they say, if it walks like a fascist and quacks like a fascist, it's a fascist.
Interesting. Now, the reason that's really interesting coming from Scott Wiener is that this man has spent a lot of his time trying to get LGBTQ plus drag queen also books and things into elementary classrooms and libraries and drag queen reading hour. Now, some would say that's grooming behavior, perhaps pedo behavior. Some might say he's trying to protect people on the sex offender registry. Man, it would be a real shame if he had a speech in front of the California State Assembly over, saying LGBTQ are targeted by the sex offender registry.
We know that the sex offender registry contains a massive array of crimes, including, I don't know, having sex in a car or in a park. That gets you on the sex offender registry. We also know that LGBTQ people have been massively and disproportionately targeted and subjected to being slammed onto the sex offender registry. That's the whole history of the sex offender registry.
Oh boy. We do have to sign the radio crew off. We'll continue with a little bonus tonus over on the live stream. Radio crew, we'll catch you real soon. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated and first out of 93 WIBC. All right, to the fine crew over on the live stream. I'm amazed. I'm amazed that man said, wow, there's all these sexual crimes are on this registry, and all of these LGBTQ plus people are on the sex offended registry. Producer Nick?
Well, it's because they're all having sex in cars and parks. That's why they're on the registry.
Look, man, if it humps like a duck and it has sex next to a playground like a duck, maybe it's a sex offender. I'm sorry. I'm just following Scott's pattern recognition. All right. So that said, we do have the particular shoe on head clip. I think we've got it lined up anyway. Again, when you consistently on the left side of the aisle call absolutely everything a fascist, whatever, then, well, you get...
Even a congressman from my state, New York, was like, oh, if you want to stop being called a fascist, you should stop being a fascist. Yeah, that's great, except you've called everyone and their mother a fascist and a Nazi for the past, 15 years.
I mean, yeah. So, again, at some point, people will say, well, what about this, rise in people saying, well, maybe not so bad. When you call the opposition the full, the everything... Don't be surprised when people in opposition go, yeah, and? One of the most classic examples of this is with racism. So in the first and early in the second Obama administration, the idea that you could have someone completely canceled, removed because something was perceived as racist, not actual racism. Something was perceived as racism. Someone who tied a garage door rope for a pull down on a non-automatic garage door, they tied it so there's a hook at the bottom so you can just pull the rope down. And they said, oh, it was in this black NASCAR driver's garage, so therefore it's a noose thing. Hate crime. They're saying they want the black guy lynched because it's in the South. And that kind of witch hunt, well, it just so happens that people started responding to accusations of racism by just going, yeah, sure, it's racist. What the heck? I don't care. To now saying I'm racist is actually, in some circles, a very weird form of virtue and humor among the youths. Producer Nick, do you have something you wanted to kind of add in there?
Just that they were calling them dog whistles, even with holding up the OK sign. That's a racist dog whistle.
That's very, very, very true. Very, very, very true. We'll hit one other thing. Well, actually, no, on the dog whistle thing, that's a good point. I want to hit one question from earlier on the show. Chris Streeter sent in 2 super chats. Very, very kind of you. Again, we don't ask you guys to tip, the show or anything like that, but it is very, very kind of you to do so. We appreciate it. And he asked a question earlier on. He said, what is your take on the alternative theories on Charlie Kirk's assassination? Okay. This comes from a lot of the same stuff, where for a long time people were told that they are just, if they disagree with anything, then naturally, presto, you're anti-Semitic. And some people have been told that long enough that they have essentially decided to say that anything, if, the word racism has lost all meaning, the word anti-Semitism has lost all meaning, so therefore, yeah, sure, I am, whatever. The issue regarding the Charlie Kirk, who was a friend of mine, assassination theories, first of all, whenever there are people on the far left who are openly promoting what it is that you are saying, red flags should shoot up out of the ground and start waving themselves like an inflatable tube man at a used car dealership. Putting that aside, despite the fact that Antifa, on their open message boards in their document literally titled the After Action Report on Charlie Kirk's assassination, was endorsing the Israel did it theory on Charlie, because that would get kind of the public eye off of Antifa. Yeah, shocker. Yeah, that's going to be something that comes out of it. Now, That said, I do want to be clear here about the Charlie Kirk assassination. We have the footage. We have the actual messages that come from that guy's IP address. We have external individuals who turned him in. We have messages from the guy to his trans boyfriend that have already been independently verified by Discord itself, not photoshopped by the FBI or whatever. He was saying, oh no, he's using very flowery or ornate language. Oh no, a gay man using flowery, ornate language? What are the odds? What's next? Oh man, that lesbian's playing roller derby. Oh no, lacrosse? No way. What's next? You're going to tell me there are conservatives who love to like hunt and like watch NASCAR? No. I, for one, am shocked. Stupid. The biggest one, though, is that when you have people like Nick Fuentes, who is very, very, very over to that far side of kind of the just no evidence whatsoever, claiming Israel done it kind of crew, saying that what you have brought to the table is ridiculous and insane and stupid. Yeah, when you've lost him, bro, you've lost it. And individuals like Candace Owens, who have come forward and said, well, I'm sharing texts, or, you know, tonight, make sure to sign in. I'm going to reveal my secret past relationship with Charlie. That's disgusting and it's rude. And I'm going to make this point yet again. How consistently they are wrong should be the biggest red flag of all. Here on this show, I make predictions. I make predictions a lot. I give you my analysis and I say, here's where things are heading next. Great spot example that's kind of apolitical. Remember when DeepSeek, the AI, came out, the Chinese AI, and everyone said, oh, it's going to blow American tech out of the water, and oh, we're doomed, and China, they said that they have put all of their AI into a broom cupboard, and it's running on quantum speeds, 1.21 gigawatts, and all this other stuff. And I said, you know what that sounds like? Communists lying, like they did with the MiG titled Foxbat. Essentially, that they claimed, the Soviets claimed this MiG fighter was way better than the United States' entire military arsenal that led to the creation of, well, you know, the F-15-16. We have a whole episode about that. And then it turned out China was lying. I was like, I don't think that China has the infrastructure. What it's most likely they did is they built a really large server room with all of the graphics cards they had, and they just have like a kind of crappy standard AI for the size that it is, which is probably several city blocks in the Tianjin province. And wouldn't you know, it turned out that about a month later, it was revealed China didn't have any breakthrough new super cool chips. They didn't have any breakthrough amazing runaway technology. They were doing exactly what we predicted. That's an apolitical example. Some of us stake our entire reputation on making a short form analysis and then being right or wrong. Some of the individuals who have claimed that we're going to go to war with Iran and oh man, and oh, then we're going to go to war with all of these other groups over the Israel thing, they were consistently wrong. And the groups that said, well, you know, Charlie Kirk was actually super duper ultra extremely critical of Israel, so they took him out after they offered him $150 million and he turned it down. So after the funding rumor was turned down, the latest version of this rumor has been dispelled today by a letter being released, and by the way, confirmed independently that this letter did in fact come from Charlie Kirk, that he wrote a letter to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and expressed his love for Israel and repeatedly offers pointers on how they can win the information war. Charlie was critical of Israel in his letter to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu because he wanted Israel to succeed. Gee, what's your evidence for that? Charlie and I never talked about Israel. We never did. We never did. Our relationship was friendly and in large part focused on like U.S. social politics and, you know, sharing jokes and things with each other. But Charlie and I came from kind of the same evangelical part of the Protestant churches per se. And I mean, he as a pre-millennial Christian as he was, he was pro-Israel, but he also thought that they were screwing themselves over on the PR and information war. By the way, I am one of those people who thinks that the Israeli idea, and I just spent a week over in Israel and argued with Israeli journalists about this. I argued with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs about this directly. to the Speaker of their House in the Knesset, I argued that when you believe foolishly that if you just show people enough pictures of the Holocaust and pictures of October 7th, you could convince anyone to believe that you're in the right with just enough evidence, that's a foolish and naive way to live life, and it is going to result in catastrophe. Now we see a peace deal maybe being brokered with the Trump administration and the Middle East and possibly ending this Israeli-Gaza war. I'm going to read a lot more on that before I give you kind of my full thoughts on it, because I actually want to read this stuff before I come out and tell you what I do and don't know. But as far as the assassination theories on Charlie Kirk, every single one of them so far has been proven wrong. So again, scoreboard. That's my, and also I think it's really gross to suggest that Erica Kirk is some kind of a plant and that, oh, secretly it's all some master thing and Charlie's actually alive on Goat Island and Guys, no, I don't think so. So, and on that matter, one other thing, because, I just can't help but share this one last little bit here at the end of the show. There's also a lot of people on my other side of the aisle, kind of on conservatism, kind of guys that I agree with a lot, who are making the case, because I guess there's someone in the White House right now that's doing a lot of leaking regarding, Israel this or Netanyahu that, and who's happy and who isn't happy. And there has been some finger pointing at the vice president's chief of staff or head of communication, Buckley Carlson, who is the son of Tucker Carlson. I know Buckley personally. And unless you have some evidence to suggest that Buckley is the one who's leaking things out, shut your mouth. You have evidence that Buckley's doing it, that's one thing. But I have known Buckley, and he has handled sensitive information as things that I had that were breaking couldn't come out when he worked in Senator Jim Banks' office in Indiana, that I would have readily been ruined for, and he would have gained immensely for had he shared that with the right outlet at the right time. He never took the opportunity, even a little bit. By the way, even a conversation that was largely critical of a policy of his boss at the time, Senator Banks. Policy didn't go through anyway. But in that line, I've not seen that. So for everyone out there in the wild blue expanse and beyond, while it is very fun to get out here and start throwing conspiracy theories as to I know the person here, guys, there's kind of enough fish to fry at the moment, like watching Portland and Chicago federal officials tackle those who have been openly calling for murder. You don't have to hunt for this one, guys. When there is a group, whether they be from Hamas, whether they be from a Palestinian mother saying she would gladly sacrifice all of her children and watch them die to gain favor from her with Allah, when you have people in the United States who say, yeah, I would kill all of the people on the right. I'm glad he's dead. More people need to kill him. Shoot ICE, shoot the bleep. Yeah, I don't really have to do a lot of deep thinking to see, who's the actual actor here? Yeah, maybe it's the person who's hopped up on medication and hormones, who is dealing with a severe mental illness like transgenderism, who were told that there are Nazis coming to disappear them. I really wonder who that group could be that's after me. Just saying, out here from my personal place, that is that's something that is rather dear to me in the conversation right now. Okay, those things all said, a fine congratulations to the Trump administration. From Ken Martin, $2. Thanks for not asking. Not necessarily sure what you mean, but does he mean like maybe asking about Charlie? I'm not sure. And then a super chat from Nevada Loves Guns. I will answer this one for kicks because we got another 3 minutes here. From Nevada Loves Guns. How can we move forward when the left worldview is completely delusional and disconnected from reality? Libs are willing to risk their unborn children by eating tons of Tylenol to spite Trump. I agree with the vice president on this one, that there really is no common ground. Everyone's a rational person when individuals who are clearly not rational pretend to be. Like I said, right now in this country, and I've said it before, producer Nick, you can back me up on this, there are two political parties. Two. Political party number one is the more establishmentarian corporatist wing of the Republican Party. The second political party is the populist wing inside the Republican Party. And then a political party that doesn't really matter because no one is taking them seriously is the Democrat Party. They're not the half of the country at this point that's driving decisions. I just don't see it. They're not actually presenting ideas. They're just screaming about toys that were taken away from them. You know, oh, thanks for not asking for money. We try not to, stab you guys for, money here, around here. We just love that you guys tune in. It's an absolute blast to get to do this show. Producer Daniel, Nick, Allison, Lou, they're excellent people, and we really, really do appreciate you guys. Producer Nick?
Do not ever feel like you owe us money to produce this show. That is not intentional. You can give money to join as a membership and get exclusive to some stickers and maybe some...
Yeah, there's some emojis and maybe some new content that we're releasing. Also, the Top News in 10, which is like our little morning program. That's a little more morning podcast. I'm not going to say that there is a certain right-wing organization who saw how good the Top News in 10 was and copied us frame for frame in how we do it. But we don't charge you a membership to access in any of those. You can access the Top News in 10 the night before if you're a member only, but that just means you're getting it 6 hours earlier, 8 hours earlier. We really are, honest to goodness. We love that you guys come here and join us. And we really do read all of your comments. We read the messages you send. You go to TonyKinnett.com. That's TonyKinnett.com. It's just a simple, crappy Squarespace website. You can send in a message there. Send a message over social media. Love to hear from you. Absolutely. In fact, I've had some long back and forth conversations that have turned into real friendships with people. David Maskura is an excellent example of this. Just a quality guy. He just sent us 2 swatches of a leather bomber jacket from World War II from a family member of his that crewed a B-17 bomber. And we're going to get that, I think, either framed or cased in resin because military history is freaking sweet. Just, you don't have to do anything for us at all other than we just are really glad that you're here. So sorry. I know that listening to someone, thank their audience isn't the most exciting thing. Producer Nick, you got anything before we round up here?
2 things you can do. Drop likes and watch the show, and tell your friends and family to watch as well.
That's true. I can't afford a billboard along I-70. I've always wanted a billboard on I-70. If you know someone who owns billboards on I-70, I know exactly what I would put on a billboard. I've never done that. But other than that, we're just glad. Yeah, subscribe. It helps the show out. Heck, email my bosses at the Daily Signal and say, I really like this Tony Kinnett guy. I don't know. Why not? Or email them and tell them you think I'm very stinky. Please don't email them and ask me to shave the beard. It's not pretty. I look like a 3rd grader underneath this. So those very important messages all shared. Have a wonderful evening. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. See you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern. Take care.